Welcome to Connect with County Leaders. Here's your host, Bryan Hill.
Hello and welcome to Connect with County Leaders. I'm Bryan Hill. On this edition of the podcast, I'm joined by Braddock District Supervisor James Walkinshaw, a lifelong resident of Northern Virginia. Supervisor Walkinshaw, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bryan. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here. And now I'm going to give a little background before we get started, okay? So, Supervisor Walkinshaw, you were first elected to the Board of Supervisors in 2019. That was not a good year, sir. That was COVID-19, right?
Yeah, I think, 2020 was COVID, yeah.
You started your first term in January of 2020 and just started your second term in 2024, so congratulations. So what accomplishments are you most proud of thus far, and what are your priorities for this term?
Yeah, thanks, Bryan. Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. And, you know, when you think back to 2020, it was a wild, strange year for everybody. Being a newly elected supervisor, I feel like I had 2 months of kind of normalcy, January, February of 2020 before COVID, and then starting in March, we all went through that really challenging and insane time. But I think, you know, what I'm most proud of is the way our board and our county managed through that crisis. As terrible as it was, even here in Fairfax County, I don't think there's any better place in the country to have gone through it with the resources that we have, with the incredible public servants that we have in our public safety agencies and our health department and throughout the county government. So I'm really proud of the small contribution I made as one of 10 board members to helping us get through that difficult time. You know, more specifically in the Braddock District, when I ran, I had some things that I said were priorities that were specific to our district. The renovation of the Audrey Moore Rec Center, which is the oldest in the county, built in 1977, before you were born even, right? Oldest rec center in the county. And we got in 2020 in the bond referendum, the first phase of funding, the first tranche of funding to move forward on that. So we're making big progress there. The Braddock Road Improvement Project to make the stretch of Braddock Road from the Beltway out past Guinea Road for the first time ever really safe, accessible, and convenient for pedestrians and bicycles, and move more traffic through there more efficiently. So we're moving forward on all those projects, and I'm proud of the progress that we've made.
Well, you were definitely a calm voice during COVID-19, 20, 21, 22. Really, most people can say even into 23, and I really appreciated your support. There were times you and I would talk on the phone and you said, "What's next?" And I would say, "I don't know. You know, we're just trying to go through the motions right now, and if we can figure out ways to make it better with the board's support, we have made it a lot better." The way we were able to do all the immunizations through the public health was amazing. And you know, when you're doing 40,000+ people in a week, that was a testament to what we do in Fairfax County. Not so well for the state, but we won't go there. You know, we won't go there today.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's easy to forget the amount of uncertainty that existed, especially in the early days, right? Uncertainty that probably to some degree persists to this day of how COVID-19 is transmitted, right? What were the right decisions? So we were all kind of managing through it day by day and doing the best with the information that we had.
Absolutely correct. You live in Annandale, you've volunteered extensively and have served your community in many ways. You know, what makes Braddock District so special, and what makes Fairfax County so special in your opinion?
Sure. So, you know, Braddock, if you look at Fairfax County on a map, Braddock District is pretty much right in the middle. Right. So it's the heart of Fairfax County. I like to say it's the heart and soul of Fairfax County, but we have so many incredible resources in the Braddock District. But I think the one thing that makes it special is the number of really established neighborhoods with committed and engaged community members, right? So it's a kind of place where each and every neighborhood has their own set of traditions and ways that they work together and come together, whether that's at the neighborhood pool or the annual, you know, neighborhood cookout or volunteer recognition brunch as I attended this weekend. It's really the kind of place where people get to know their neighbors and reach out to help their neighbors. And during COVID, that was really important. So it's the kind of place where during COVID, folks knew that they had an elderly neighbor who needed help getting their prescriptions. So they would go out and get it for them and all kinds of things like that. So it really is a special place based on community and the idea of community.
Well, the Braddock district, and I have a lot of friends in Braddock district, namely Mark O'Mara, a popcorn guy is what I call him,
Yeah.
speaks so highly of you and what you have done thus far as you embark into your second term. You also are the legislative chair and the environmental chair. And the reason why I say I put those two together and not say there's a single question here, but I am going to say this, we have to work with Richmond. And as you look at chairing legislative and chairing the environment, what challenges or opportunities do you see with working with Richmond?
Sure. So I had the great honor of chairing the legislative committee in my first term. In this term, I've taken on the additional responsibility of chairing the environmental committee. And, we have huge challenges and huge opportunities in Richmond.
Right.
And we've made progress. So, just by way of background for folks watching or listening, Virginia is a Dillon Rule state. So what that means is local governments can only do those things that the state government explicitly says we can do.
That's right.
So if they don't say we can do it, we can't do it. So we have to ask permission for a lot of things. And when you talk about environmental issues, that's particularly important.
Right.
Something that folks might assume we could do, for example, as we're moving forward to build the solar project at the old Lorton landfill, right? We need to use that energy that's produced there, the Lorton landfill, to power other county government buildings in other parts of the county. Well, state law didn't say we could do that. So we had to go get a specific bill passed just to allow us to do that very thing, use those electrons that are produced at the solar facility in Lorton and power other county government buildings. Right. And I could go through a list of 97 other instances like that where we have to get specific authorization. So I've enjoyed working with especially our delegation in Fairfax County on those issues, and we're going to continue to make progress as much as possible. We have a little bit of a hurdle now on some of those issues in the governor's mansion, but we're going to keep working on them and hopefully bring them around.
Well, speaking about hurdles, we do collaborate with other communities in our region and you collaborate with various folks in the region, because you're on maybe 4 or 5 other board appointments. Could you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, the regional work that we do is really important. And if you think about so many of the issues that people deal with in their day-to-day lives, right? Commuting to work, having a clean environment, whether it's the Chesapeake Bay or more local environmental issues, air quality issues, emergency preparedness issues. Those aren't just Fairfax County issues. Those are really regional issues. And so we work across a lot of different regional bodies, different boards and authorities and commissions with our colleagues from around the region to make sure we're on the same page and we're moving forward. So I'm able to represent the county on the Council of Governments Board of Directors, the Council of Governments Transportation Planning Board, and a long list of others. But it really is a great opportunity to make sure Fairfax County's voice is heard and that we're working collaboratively with our neighbors.
Well, I really, really like that answer. In 2017, our county adopted the One Fairfax policy. Now there's one Montgomery, one Atlanta, one Herndon.
Good. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on with one.
Yeah.
What opportunities do you think this One Fairfax presents to our residents?
Yeah, I think it presents incredible opportunities, and I have to give Chairman McKay and then Supervisor Kathy Hudgens and yourself a lot of credit for making that happen. And I think what's so powerful about the One Fairfax policy is it's not a policy that sits alone on a shelf somewhere by itself, right? It's a policy that creates a lens for us to look at every policy and every decision that we make. And I always share with people, the experience I had relatively early on the board of meeting with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation and looking at some proposed changes to our bus routes. Yeah. And a layer to that, every time we look at those decisions, is how will changes impact low-income communities, communities of color, right, immigrant communities. And I think that shows the power of the broader One Fairfax policy that it's a tool we can apply to every policy and decision that we make. And our hope is over time, it'll lead to a much more equitable county where opportunities are for everyone in every corner of the county.
That's what we've been doing. I remember when you came to me about a specific bus route, and Metro did what they did, and we came through with transportation. So thanks to Tom Pashadny, former director, who kind of recirculated everything for us. So, you know, community engagement is a priority of yours as well as the board. What are some of the strategies you plan to implement that will strengthen community connection to our incredible services, resources, and programs that we provide, the Board of Supervisors provide for our residents?
Yeah, you know, I think as a county government, we do, by and large, a very good job engaging with the community, right? Whether that is neighborhood and community services and the outreach that they perform when we have land use and development and zoning issues, the really extensive public participation and engagement processes that we have. So I think that's something that Fairfax County as a government does very well. For me, you know, I see it as my responsibility to be on the ground in my district. If two people are gathered and they want me to be there, sometimes even if they don't, I want to be there because I want to understand, you know, how people are feeling, what their cares and concerns are, so I can figure out a way to address them. So, you know, we use our email newsletter and our mailed newsletters and social media extensively. But for me, I really see it as my responsibility to be there with folks early in the morning and late into the evening so I can understand firsthand how they're feeling and what's going on in their neighborhoods.
So you're basically saying this is not a part-time job, right?
No, it's not. It is not a part-time job, absolutely not.
Why do you think residents should care about local government?
Yeah, you know, I have the great opportunity fairly regularly to meet with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Eagle Scouts. I always say I wasn't in the Scouts, but I'm hoping if I just keep showing up to their meetings, I'll be able to tie a knot or something at some point. But I usually talk about local government by asking them to tell me about their day, right? So what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, right? Maybe you go in the bathroom and you brush your teeth, and the clean, safe water that comes out of your faucet comes from Fairfax Water, our water authority appointed by the Board of Supervisors. It doesn't come from the President of the United States or the United States Congress, right? It's a local government function. Same thing when you flush the toilet, by the way. That sewer system is our responsibility, not the federal or state government's responsibility. You know, you go out to the bus stop and get on the school bus that is funded overwhelmingly by the Board of Supervisors and local taxpayers. After school, maybe you visit a local park for soccer practice or baseball practice. It is most likely that is a Fairfax County Park Authority park, again, local government. So the things that most impact your day-to-day life and the quality of your life are decisions that are made at the local level, not at the state or federal level.
Well, I totally get that, because a lot of individuals don't even realize what we do at local levels. And with you being a spokesperson for Fairfax County and for the Braddock District, it's absolutely phenomenal watching you interact with folks and helping them understand what we do. But now, keeping in the same vein, you know, you're a community. We want to keep our community safe, and that's something that everybody is working hard to achieve, from the police chief to the fire chief to Department of Safety Communications, heck, to Finance Department. I mean, it's really interwoven. What are some of your public safety objectives as you look forward into this new term?
Well, I think it's really simple. You know, Fairfax County has been for many years now the safest jurisdiction of its size, the safest large jurisdiction in the United States of America. That means we have the lowest violent crime rate. So our goal is to maintain that every single year. And even if you look in our region, other jurisdictions that were sometimes compared to Montgomery County, not to pick on them, but similar from a socioeconomic standpoint, similar size, their violent crime rate is almost twice the violent crime rate in Fairfax County. So our goal always has to be to maintain that. And I think the way we do it is by maintaining and building on the strong partnerships between our police department and the community. We've been doing community policing for a long time in Fairfax County, and we're continuing to innovate to ensure that we do it better to keep the community safe. But the other thing I'll say is, there's the data, right? And we know that the facts and the data demonstrate that Fairfax County is the safest jurisdiction, large jurisdiction in the country. But you also have to think about how people feel, right? And we have to realize we are in an era where the media and some political actors, quite frankly, want people to be afraid. They want people to feel unsafe. And the media that people consume, right, is oftentimes dominated by the negative, dominated by the small number of serious crimes that occur. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us who are in a position of trust, elected office or other, to make sure people understand the facts, the reality in terms of the safe nature of Fairfax County, and that we continue to do everything we can to keep that.
Speaking about that, as well as keeping the data, the data is very important. It's really important to understand the data and then to articulate the data to all. And I believe we've begun that process with our data applications. I'm looking at our transportation and mobility dashboard. That allows you to say, Bryan, I want Burke Center Parkway funded for X because of these things that have happened around there. Yeah. And I have to give the board a lot of kudos for allowing us to actually go outside of our lanes, to use the data to get informed decision making. So that's another kudo to you and to the board. But what's fascinating to me is, as I listen to you talk about all the things that we are doing in Fairfax County and in the Braddock District, it comes to my mind is like, why in the heck would you want to serve in local government? And the reason why I say it like that, you worked for the feds for many years, but you came back down because I think you realized that this is where the rubber hits the road. I don't want the congressman to get mad at me when he sees
he would agree with that. Yeah, I was the chief of staff for Congressman Connolly for about 11 years. And for me, it was a couple things. Certainly, he spent 14 years on the Board of Supervisors, so hearing from him the opportunities that local government provides, the opportunity to have real, tangible impact, right? The great thing about this job is you can go around your community and see things you were able to help make happen. This weekend, we were planting trees at Monticello Park, where we have a dog park on Guinea Road there. And, for a long time, I'll be able to drive by there or walk by there or visit that park and say, I was able to help some community members get some new trees planted there. So that's an exciting thing to be able to do that. I think for me, though, one of the big drivers was, we have gone through a several decade period in this country where we've seen declining levels of trust that people have in institutions, right? Whether that's big business or corporations or government, maybe especially government. And some of that lack of trust probably deserved. But I think local government provides an opportunity to, in a small way, in a small corner of the world, try to rebuild some of that trust. So as I go about my work in the Braddock District, engaging with people, I go about it with that mindset that if they're facing a challenge or a problem in their neighborhood or their community, that they know that I and the folks who work with me in the Braddock District office are people who are going to go to bat for them, who are going to listen, and are going to do everything in our power to solve the problem. We can't always solve the problem, but we care and are going to do our best to try to solve it for them. My hope is that'll rebuild a little bit of trust that has been lost.
It's been a challenging 4 or 5 years, and I hear you loud and clear on that. Every word is taken to the fact checker. Every word, even if you say hello. What do you mean by that? Right?
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
We have a couple more questions. Okay. I have a couple more questions. I want to ask you what project that you are most passionate about that maybe nobody knows about, that may not come to the dais at the Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, that is a great question. There are so many I mentioned the tree planting at Monticello Park. Small things like that can be powerful for a group of people in a specific community. Early on, I was able to help get a pedestrian bridge on a trail in a park replaced. That was really meaningful for the community that values that park. We were able to replace a playground at Lake Accotink Park after kind of unexpectedly went out of commission. So I think it's really those opportunities on the ground in a tangible way when people say, hey, this is a problem. Being able to work with them to address it is something that I really enjoy.
That's awesome. Final question. What is something that Braddock residents and the residents of Fairfax County might not know about you that you want them to know? I know there's some things that I know about you that you don't want people to know, but what are the things?
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's always it's a hard question. And my colleagues on the board know this, and they probably roll their eyes when I go down this path of sharing some kind of historical anecdote. But I enjoy history and reading history, especially local history here. My family came to Northern Virginia, what was then and is now Prince William County, in the 18th century.
Oh, wow.
So I enjoy learning and understanding Northern Virginia history and Fairfax County history. And sometimes that provides me with an anecdote or a nugget that is useful in our work as we're discussing or considering some of our work on the board.
I want to know why the Walkinshaw family allowed us to give up land and create Loudoun County.
So the history, and you heard me reference this yesterday. So the creation, and I should have said this to Chair Randall, maybe we can center this episode.
We will.
Loudoun County only exists for this reason. So in the 1700s, the courthouse, the Fairfax County Courthouse, and at that time, Fairfax County included what's now Loudoun, Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria, basically from the Potomac River to the Blue Ridge Mountains was Fairfax County. The courthouse was in the center of the county, roughly where it is now. A group of cantankerous Scots, and I can say that because my grandfather was Scottish, but in Alexandria, which was settled by Scots, successfully petitioned the governor of Virginia, the colonial governor of Virginia, to move the courthouse from roughly central Fairfax to Alexandria along the Potomac River, because most of the population was settled along the Potomac River at that time. So when the courthouse moved from central-ish Fairfax, which was relatively close to what's now Loudoun, to Alexandria, the people who live in what's now Loudoun said, that's way too far for us to travel. That's why they created a new county. So Loudoun County only exists because that courthouse was temporarily moved to Alexandria. So next time I see Chair Randall, I'll have to point out to her that now the courthouse is back where it belongs in central Fairfax County, so Loudoun is welcome back if they're interested.
I like that, and on that note, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Connect with County Leaders. I'm going to try and do this without laughing because that was awesome. I want to say special thanks to you, Supervisor Walkinshaw, Braddock District, for joining us today, and thanks to you for being here. I look forward to talking with you again next month on Connect with County Leaders, and thank you so much, sir, for giving me some time today, because that was a very good history lesson, and I think it was well needed, predicated on what you and I heard a little while ago. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, sir. Appreciate it.